SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back. So for past few days we were talking about some tool which talks about manual material handling, right? So we discussed about NIOSH, we discussed about manual activity handling, assessment chart and all. So today we will talk about one specific guideline which is being used by HSE for any kind of manual handling. Okay, manual handling at any workplace. So manual handling, I mean to say some kind of load that people are handling at the workspace or workplace. So some small brief guideline, and this type of guideline is very useful while designing the particular work environment or workplace. Okay, so using this small guideline you can have some kind of basic idea that how this is good and what is good for the human who is going to operate over here, or what are the if there is no conditions beyond those factors, how we can minimize the risk. So using this guideline we can definitely design the better workplace for manual material handling. So let us understand the basic concept of it. So it is, as I mentioned, it is given by HSE, Health and Safety Executive. So it is a guide, it's a guide, it's not a very specific some calculation or indexing or nothing. It's a some kind of guideline. Okay, so it's a guide that includes simple risk filters. Okay, so it is going to give you some small filters, and if your workstation is being designed through using those filters, you will be in risk free zone. Okay, so some simple risk filters which can be helpful in identifying hazardous manual activity. So manual handling includes over here, so MAC that we discussed earlier, there only we talked about load carrying, load lifting and team handling, right? But here we will be talking about lifting, lowering, pushing, pulling, moving and carrying load. So many varieties. Okay, for NIOSH lifting equation also you will see it is going to talk about only lifting and lowering. MAC talks about lifting, carrying and your team handling operation of for any manual material things. Okay, but here we will be getting a brief guideline about lifting, lowering, pushing, pulling, moving or carrying any kind of load. Okay, so this is very useful method or tool to introduce in any workstation design where you are doing any kind of manual material handling. So hierarchy of measures to be followed to prevent and manage the risks from hazardous manual handling. So there we will be doing three major activity. First is avoid. What we need to avoid? We need to avoid the hazardous manual handling operation. So we have to identify what is hazardous manual activity and we have to avoid it. Second is assess. What we are going to assess? We are going to assess the risk of injury to workers from any hazardous manual handling that cannot be avoided. So first we are trying to avoid any kind of manual handling. Now, if there is a situation that we cannot avoid manual material handling, there we need to assess the what is the risk of injury is there. Okay, so that is the second. And third is reduction or reduce. What you are going to reduce? You are going to reduce the risk of injury to workers from hazardous manual handling to as low as reasonably practicable. Okay, here this is very important. Okay, as low as much as possible you will be doing, but you cannot compromise the productivity, which is the major goal of any ergonomics intervention. So, if your productivity goes down, then definitely employer will not accept any such intervention. Okay, so you have to see the operator's point, that you need to save them from any kind of risk or any kind of hazard. However, you have to also take care that you cannot compromise with the productivity. So, these are the three major action that we will be discussing in this particular guideline. First, you need to avoid as much as possible. If you cannot avoid, then assess the risk. If once you assess the risk, you try to minimize it as much as possible without hampering the productivity. Okay, so these are the three things you are going to learn. So, how we are going to avoid the hazardous manual handling at any workplace or workstation? Okay. So, first is eliminate the handling load if possible. Okay. So, how does the item really need to be moved? So, you need to check. Okay, so these questions, these are like of kind of scrutiny questions. Okay, so you need to check, does the item where you are doing the manual handling, so you need to check, does this particular item really need to be moved? Can products or materials be delivered directly where these particular things are going to be used? So, is there any necessity to handle the load or not? So, first you need to assess that. If you find the answer is no, that there is, yes, it is possible that without handling also you can manage the situation, then just eliminate that. The next part is automation or mechanization. This what you are going to see. Can you see materials handling equipment or mechanical aids to eliminate or reduce the risk that you are going to identify? So, is it possible that here in that particular position or in that particular situation or in particular workstation, you can introduce some kind of mechanical aid so that direct manual handling is not there? Can you use any kind of robotic technology or not? So, you need to check. If it is, the answer is yes, please introduce it. Okay. So, these are the steps that you are going to follow to avoid the hazardous manual handling in a particular workstation. Now, once you see, yes, this is possible, then problem is solved. So, you no longer is the things is not going to bother you. So, you are done. But some cases both the things are not possible. It is not possible to avoid or eliminate any manual material handling. Also, it is not possible that you introduce any kind of mechanization or use of robotic technology over there. So, what the human has to do the job. In that case, what you have to do? You have to avoid it, right? How you are going? You have to assess it, assess the risk. Now, how you are going to do that? So, consider the risks arising from where. So, you are going to find out the causal factor of the risk at the task, at that particular load, the working environment, individual capacity, any materials handling equipment or handling aids that is going to be used, how you organize and allocate the work, the pace, frequency and duration of work. So, which one is causing the risk? So, you have to find out it, you have to assess it. It may happen that one of the factor is present, maybe only task is present or only load is present, like risk from load, no, maybe something related to only with the work environment, only maybe the individual capacity, the person himself or herself is not in a position to do the job, however the other person may definitely can do the job, so work rotation. Or it may happen that any combination of these factors are present. It may happen that any one of the causal factor is there or in combination, that you have to find out as the part of assess the risk. Now next is, in HSC suggested approach, there are 3 levels of detail. One is simple filter, another is HSC's risk assessment tool, and third is a full risk assessment. Now depending on the availability of the resources, depending on the intervention type, you can choose any one of them to assess the risk. Now when I am talking about simple risk, so we have 3 process, right? Simple filter, then risk assessment tool and the full risk assessment. So let us discuss one by one. First is simple filters for risk assessment. Now what filters you are going to do? While carrying the risk filters, you have to find out is if that particular product or particular material is held against the body. So are you holding it like this and walking? Is carried no further than 10 meter without resting. So 10 meter you are walking but without any break or without any rest. Does not prevent the person from walking normally. So while doing that or while carrying that particular material, the person is not walking properly, maybe there is some restriction in walking. So is it like this? Does not obstruct the view of the person's carrying while carrying it. Okay, so the load height should not be that more than your eye height, so that you are not in a position to look in the front what is there, you cannot see the path. Okay, so is it present? It should not also require the hands to be held below the knuckle height or much above the elbow height. So the positioning of your arm, okay, because you are holding it, right? So it should not happen that you are holding any load very below of your knuckle height. Okay, so then definitely you are going to bend to hold the object, or it should not happen that it is beyond your shoulder elbow height. If it is so, then you have to raise your shoulder. So those conditions you need to avoid. So if you are going to find the causal factors, from that what are the simple barrier or filter you have to say? You have to say while carrying none of the things should be present. Okay, how do? You have to design the place in that way so that these things are not present, although the person is doing the job, but these factors are not present. If these factors are not present, then it becomes easy for the operator to go ahead with the work, right? Now next filter is your lowering or lifting any job. So at what height? So this is the definition. This is for women, if some female worker is there, and if some male worker is there. So for lifting and lowering, what is the weight should be there? Okay, so if the person is your upper arm is aligned with your body and your lower arm is in horizontal location, so in this position you can see the amount of weight is comparatively more than if you are holding it in this position, right? So this is a simple guideline that at shoulder height, at elbow height, at knuckle height, or at the mid lower leg height, what should be the weight for women. So these are the list of the women and this is the list for the men. So you can use this filter to find out what weight he or she should carry. Okay, carry or for the lowering or lifting job. Moving to next part, that is the pushing and pulling. So first one was for carrying. Okay, this was for lifting and lowering, and this is for your pushing or pulling. What you need to see, the torso is applied with the hand, the force, okay, the force is applied with the hand, the torso is largely upright and not twisted, the hands are between hip and shoulder height, the distance moved without a pause or break is no more than about 20 meter. So if you are doing any pulling or pushing job, these four filters you have to give. If you cannot give these four filters, if any one of them is present, definitely the person is exposed to certain amount of risk. So you cannot avoid the material handling, pulling, pushing, you cannot avoid, the person has to do. However, you are ensuring that while doing the pulling and pushing, the person is not exposed to any such risk. If person is getting exposed to any one of such risks, you have to think how you do redesign the workspace, work environment, so that these risks are you can avoid these risks, okay, or eliminate these risks. So that is the simple filter for pulling and pushing. Now moving, so this is the example that how you can do the pull push. This is simple way, this is very acceptable posture. So you can do this pushing, this possible way you can do the things, then it will be easy for someone to do the job. So this is acceptable. So acceptable pull posture, pull and push postures. Now this is for your, if you are handling some kind of load while sitting the job. So here again for women it is there and for men it is there. So you can see the load weight is very different depending on the gender. Okay, so this is one of the factor that you can give as a filter while handling the material in a sitting condition. Now once you have all those things, what you have to do, you have to find out the risk and control. So what we are going to do over here, we will read all these factors and we'll try to understand how the design intervention can be introduced while doing this risk assessment and controlling. So risk to look for when making an assessment. So maybe the task, do they involve holding the loads away from the body? You are questioning, so you are trying to assess it. Twisting, stooping or reaching upward, large vertical movement, long carrying distance, strenuous pushing or pulling, repetitive handling, risk of sudden movement or load, insufficient rest or recovery time, a work rate imposed by a process. So you are going to ask these questions by yourself, look from your observation as well as the input from the workers or operators and the supervisors or managers, whoever is available at the workplace. Okay, so if such things are available, then you need to think. Suppose I'll just give an example. So holding the load away from the body. So you are holding the load away from your body. So you need to see while holding that particular load, you are occupying that posture. How you can do the changes in design so that the load can come closer to your body. You cannot avoid the manual handling, right? So that you are not going to. However, you are trying to see what kind of equipment changes or what kind of structure layout you can do changes so that load is coming towards body, not going away from your body. So these are some indications. For this is all about task. So maybe the problem may happen with the task. Maybe it is with the load itself. So you need to check, is that particular load what the person is going to handle is heavy, or it is bulky, difficult to grasp, unstable, or likely to move unpredictably, harmful, example maybe sharp or very hot or very cold, awkwardly stacked, too large for handle or to see over. So maybe you cannot see like this. Okay, is this is there anything like this? If so, how you can do the changes? So in any kind of any industrial condition, it is not possible that all of them will present. Maybe one or two factors will present, and which will cause lot of problem, a lot of productivity issue. So what you have to do is you have to find out which factor it is, and then look at the situation and try to see how you can solve it. So maybe only heavy or bulky. So how you can reduce the size or reduce the weight? So if you reduce the weight, then again you have to see what is the kind of manpower cost it is, and then how you can without compromising the productivity, how you can handle the situation. Okay. Now if this is so, then answers are lying here. Okay. So if it is heavy or bulky, lighter or less bulky, maybe difficult to grasp, then easier to grasp. How can you make it? If it is unstable, then how can you make it more stable? So these all questions will arise, and you have to take decision, and then you have to see the feasibility of design intervention based on such cases. So these are the observation findings, and this is how you are going to control those observed problem or observed issues. So the first one was for task, second one was for load. Then next one is for your working environment. What exactly you are looking for? You are looking for restriction on posture. So if doing that particular job, so handling that particular material, is it restricted? Is this particular manual handling causing the restriction of your posture? Maybe you cannot move your neck, or maybe you cannot move your hand, or maybe you need to put in a forward bending posture. So what it is? If it is like that, then what you have to do, that you have to remove the obstruction whatever is there to free your movement. So bumpy or obstructed or slippery floors are there or not, variation in floor levels are not, hot, cold, humid conditions are present or not, what all the things. So maybe you need to check for your PPE. So sometimes it happen while doing such kind of job, you are wearing a PPE, and that PPE itself is causing a problem. So how do you redesign that particular PPE? Okay. So this way you can talk about the working environment. The next factor is individual capacity. It is very, very important, and it's this is very tricky to actually address. Okay, so require unusual capability, example above average strength or agility. So you need to be very alert for certain cases. Maybe you need lot of muscle power, because we are talking about manual material handling, right? So those cases, how do you do that? So while doing or designing that particular thing, you have to consider that this is the way how you are going to handle the object. Okay, poses a risk to those with a health problem or learning or physical disability. Somebody may have some kind of learning and physical disability. For them, maybe this particular job is not possible to carry out. So you have to take care of the recruitment process. Okay, so to whom you are giving this particular job. Pose a risk to a new or expectant mothers. Look, you have to take care of your physical health. If somebody is pregnant, maybe you will not be able to allow her to do that particular job. So call for special information or training. Maybe everyone can do it, but before handling that thing, you need to give some kind of specific training so that they can do the job in a right way. Okay, so all these individual things, this is very, very important, and definitely human resource department always handle this kind of things. Also floor managers, supervisors, they take care of these kind of decisions. So if you work very closely with them, probably you will be able to give better solution and improved productivity condition. Okay, so this is the way how you are controlling those risks. Now coming to handling aids and equipment, you have to consider, is the device the correct type of the job for the job or not. Maybe you have some forklift for lifting some kind of load, but is that particular, there are varieties of forklift. So is that particular type is suitable for that particular lifting or not? You have to find out that. So maybe some kind of mechanical aid is available with you to handle the job, but still there is a problem. Why? So maybe the equipment itself is not correct choice. Okay, so you have to find out that. Is it well maintained? Maybe it is there, but it is not well maintained, so it is not functioning. Okay, so you need to see that. Are the wheels on the devices, whatever is available, suited to the floor surface or not? Okay, so you have to check. So maybe in a slippery floor, what type of wheels, where is you need more gripping. Okay, however, the equipment that you are using to transport or handling the things may not have that kind of gripping, and it may cause some kind of accidents. Okay, so you have to check what is the condition. If it is not maintained properly, maybe very old wheels, okay, so which lost their grips over the period of time. So do you need to change them or not, or do you need to do the maintenance of this particular equipment or not? Are there any brakes? Suppose you are walking, pushing something with a particular cart, and there is some obstacle, you need to break it. So is it available or not, or you need to control it manually? So what is the kind of condition with the with those kind of scenario, and about that particular equipment, you need to answer them. Work organization factor, which is very important, because when you are talking about ergonomics, we are talking about human factors, human interaction. So organization always comes into picture. So is the work is repetitive or not? Because if it is no, you are doing it continuously, then definitely there is a chance to neglect some point, or maybe there is a monotony, or maybe there is a due to repetition the overuse of some group of muscles. So is the work machine or system is in a paced condition. So if it is you are doing it very hurry in a hurry condition, then maybe there is a chance of accident. But if you are doing it in a particular pace, definitely you are getting a time to understand, recognize the situation, react on the situation and doing the job. Okay. So cognitive process is in place, physical capacity also is also in place. Those cases it is less hazardous. But if it is not, so time is not is a constraint, in that case maybe you are going to get some kind of difficulties. So do workers have little control of job or working method? Okay, so is like is it just controlled by somebody? Suppose in an assembly line something is happening, so if the speed of the conveyor belt is not under the control of the operator, then maybe there is the speed of that particular load handling is depending on the speed of the conveyor belt. Okay, if it is not possible to control, maybe there can be some kind of accidents. Okay, so how do we have control over it? So what is the kind of mechanism available towards this? So you need to get answer and have to screen the process accordingly. Again I am repeating one point over here. All these varieties of points will not be present in a single workstation or workspace. Maybe one or two of them will present, and that is your intervention. Okay, so it's not that it is expected that any workspace is not so hazardous. Then if it is so hazardous, the person will not be able to work there, right? However, there will be some condition which is hazardous. You have to identify only that. Okay. So you do not expect that when you are going to assess the workstation, you will get 3 or 4 such condition. No, maybe hardly 1 or 2. So that is the kind of expectation you should have. Okay. So this is the way how you use this particular guideline to evaluate your workstation, and accordingly you can do the control measures. Okay, so this is all about manual handling guideline given by HSC. Fine.